'cause now it is my turn. Just won't work you out.
Welcome back to Rubbing Minds. February 4th, yesterday, was celebrated as World Cancer Day. And I have with me in the studio Adenike Oyetunde, who's an on-air personality, media girl, as well as a cancer survivor. Welcome to Rubbing Minds.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So tell us about your story.
Wow. Every time I hear that, I always feel like everybody knows the story. But long story short, 11 years ago, I lost my limb to cancer. And that's the journey that I've been on in the past 11 years, amongst the many other things that I've been trying to put my hands to. But this is a cause that it's a part of me, and it's something that will remain with me for such a long time. So 4th of February is very special to me. I have 3 birthdays. You know, 4th of February happens to be my 2nd birthday, because there was a rebirthing of some sort. And every year, I try to do something. It's been a burden in my heart. So it's been a journey of failures, disappointments, highs and the lows for me as an individual, from people around me, from the government, and even you.
Well, when we think about cancer, sometimes we don't think about amputation. We just think about somebody death, exactly. And we don't think about survivors, because maybe not enough people are sharing their story, which is why I said just share that story, just in case there's somebody out there that hasn't heard that story. So how can people really deal with cancer? I mean, when I say deal with it, like you have somebody suffering from cancer in the family, you have someone that has recovered, or you have somebody in a family that unfortunately has died as a result of cancer. Now,
the World Cancer Day was started to do certain things. One was to educate. The other was to, to pressure governments. And yet again, to also talk very emphatically on early diagnosis. Now, according to the World Health Organization, about 14 million people around the world are diagnosed with cancer, various forms of cancer every year, and 8.8 million of them actually die. So survival rates has been fluctuating, honestly. But then the question of the nature of the cancer itself is always, what determines whether the survival chances will be high. Say testicular cancer, for instance, in the last 40 years, the survival rate has increased. But pancreatic cancer, for instance, the chances are very slim, even in developed world, in the West, as we like to call it. Just yesterday, report came out that in New Delhi, of the 8.8 million deaths associated with cancer around the world, they account for 2.2. And I started to think to myself, what percentage does Nigeria add to that? We're not good with keeping data, let alone data that has to do with cancer, because it's not as popular, or it hasn't happened to people, family members of people in government, or people who should know better. So we don't know specifically how many people die from cancer-related treatments. Again, because of the nature of our environment, people think, oh, somebody in the village is after you. Control. Exactly. So the average person, I still talked about it a few weeks ago, and ironically, somebody did call to say, oh, there's nothing like cancer, and it's just not right. You can take herbs, it will go. So we still have a problem as to how many Nigerians contribute to the number of deaths. And until we know that, we cannot know the survival rate. We cannot know what it is that we're dealing with. And again, because it's always late presentation, it would have gone past the 60th or the 70th chance of survival, and then people show up at the hospital, which was one of the things that happened to me as well. Okay, so you survived cancer. Yes, I did. But unfortunately, you had to lose a limb to that. And people don't always, how do people treat you? Because I'm looking at this picture and it's beautiful. But sometimes you don't want pity, you don't want sympathy, you want people to just accept you. And then you have other pictures where you have a prosthetic limb. Well, like today you decided not to wear the prosthetic limb. So how do you deal with all of that? Because this is like the after effect of surviving cancer. It was, I didn't know I was struggling with low self-esteem for so many years, until the 8th or the 9th year. And it actually did have to take one person to identify to me that, look, what you're going through is you're battling low self-esteem. Now, society is not structured in such a way that we have social groups where we're not providing you with money, we're not providing you with prosthetic limbs, we're not paying for your medical bills. All we're there for is to help you psychologically or mentally walk through this journey of having been diagnosed with cancer or having lost a family member to cancer. I know the number of people who have reached out to me to say, oh, you know, I lost my mom, she couldn't survive and all of that. We don't have that. And for me, having gone through that journey, I think I consciously had to fight to keep my head up. Maybe because of the fact that I'm an only kid of both my parents, so I knew that they were going to get energy from me, so I had to be strong somehow. But I've gone through that, and I know that I wouldn't want people to have to go through that journey for themselves. So how about I decide to, you know, send me a message. I get friends call me, please can you call this a person, they've just been diagnosed with cancer, put a call across to them. I can relate with their story. They listen to me, they understand what it is, and then when they find out that I actually have lost a limb, it changes their mindset. Because for some people, it's, we're going to have to take off maybe a part of the liver, don't worry, there are chances that it will regenerate. For some people, it's a limb loss. And they see me, they see that my life still continues, and okay, strength. So until we get to the part where, as a society, we're more accommodating of many things. It's no fault of mine that I was diagnosed with cancer and I had to lose my limb, but we should be accepting of people. I'm not a burden to anyone, and I'm sure there are a lot of people, amputees out there that are not burdens, but some people do not have the opportunity of the exposure and the knowledge that I do, and then they think that the only opportunity for them to do, or the only thing available for them to do, is to beg for alms. I have had to speak to some of these people, and without a doubt, I have literally just said, you know what, you do what it is you want to do. Some of them just want to stay there, and it's a lot of mental work to have to work on their psyche, have to work on their self-esteem, and sometimes it's draining, or most times, honestly, it's draining. And when I'm not in a good place, I find out that they will literally sink me. So I have been through so much in the last 11 years, and I think I'm ready to forge ahead and help as many people as will require my help.
Okay, so moving around in Lagos,
Yes.
or moving around in a country like Nigeria, do you think there, when people are doing buildings, do they take this into consideration? I mean, there are some malls where you have disability parking, and you see there, and it's only for people who have one form of disability or impediment or the other. How would you score a country like Nigeria, or Lagos to be precise?
0.
Why do you say that?
Honestly, 0. I have been going to a mall for years, for so many years, at least once a week. And not until last year did I realize that it actually did have a disability parking slot. There was no signage to say there is a disability parking. So the day, unfortunately for the driver that was parked there, that I noticed, I got down from the car because I drove, I was looking for parking, the place was full. So I got down and I asked him, sir, do you have a form of disability? He said no. He was looking at me like, did you bring someone here who has a form of disability? He said no. And I just started to shout, like, you need to move your car from this place right now. It's insufficient that you have the floors painted with a wheelchair on it, notifying that it's disability. You must put a signage. You must also educate your employees, because some of these people, imagine that they had seen me, one of the security guys had seen me. I said, oh, ma'am, where did you park? And I go, oh, I parked. Okay, how about you go bring your car? The security guy did not even understand what I was saying. So every single time I have gone there, honestly speaking, I think only once has that parking ever been empty. And in that regard, Lagos, a mall that has people from various parts of the world come there, and we pride ourselves as being the economic capital of Africa, where we're absolutely not doing anything. I used to praise so much Lagos state government, but I think I'm receiving me on that, because in 2014 or 15, when Fashola was there was a law that came into effect, and they say by 2016, almost every building would have been given ample time to make some major structural readjustments. But as I speak to you, I promise you that it's just a law on paper. Nothing has been done to it. So until Governor Ambade decides that, you know what, we have this law in place, we need to start to penalize people and building owners, you know, the architects. It has to be a world of inclusion, and Nigeria makes it absolutely impossible for people living with disability. The only form that you find where you find anything is a ramp. I have a 3-year-old physically challenged friend. There are no rails. She goes to the UK, we have family members. She can literally move around. The elevator, she can go around, because the elevator has everywhere you go to, wherever it is. But here, we just think disability, everybody thinks, oh, crutches, everybody thinks. How does someone on a wheelchair gain access into a banking hall when they have money in the bank? Which was something I tried to pull off with one of the new generation banks just a few months ago on Adjust Your Adeogun. I won't call names, don't worry, don't be scared.
Okay, so what are you focusing this year in your activism? Because you're very passionate about cancer.
Wow.
So what is this year's project all about?
So I have been stalling for so long, so long. I have a very dear friend, Yudi, and I just sent him, you know, what I thought in my head, and he went, oh, I thought he was going to say, yay, well done. He just goes, this is long overdue. I've always wanted to help people with